Welcome to the Wicked Watercolour brush guide for Procreate. I'm going to give you a quick run through on the brush pack, but make sure to check out the other videos in the playlist for more in-depth tips and tricks on using the pack, including how to use all the bonus content like paper textures, templates, palettes, backgrounds, as well as a few useful strategies and workflows for digital watercolour painting. If you haven't already grabbed our Wicked Watercolour pack, make sure to check it out in the link below. Let's jump straight into the paints. These are the core of the set. There's a few character traits across all of these brushes. There's a mixture of wet, hard edges, soft edges, clean and jaggy lines, as well as having different subtle textures. Most of them behave slightly differently depending on the pencil pressure you use, so make sure to experiment. Our go-to guide brushes, Jimmy and Brian, are superb all-rounders, and we use them on nearly everything. A key to using them is covering areas of colour in a single stroke. Experiment with pressure in these ones as well. If you press hard, you'll get nice defined edges, but if you press lighter, you can make these less pronounced. And if you go lighter again, you can actually smudge and blend the paints, all in one stroke without lifting your pencil. Eric and Ken both have slightly different edges and flavours to them, but play nicely with the other brushes and are great to mix and match with. Fab Area Paint is another nice one for applying nicely textured paint evenly on the canvas. With all these paint brushes, we usually paint the main area and give it a second coat, which gives a huge amount of control over coverage and saturation. Cuddly When Wet is another personal favourite. It has super wet edges and is perfect for some soft overpainting, and it's a great alternative to smudging, which can lose a little bit of texture. Instead, try painting over areas you'd like to blend better, and it will give a more natural look without losing detail. The other paints are great for overpainting on top of your base layer of paint, and each have different characteristics. Clean versus more jagged edges, strong versus soft edges, different textures, different strengths of smudging when you ease off the pressure. So mix and match to find your favourite combinations. The detail brushes are a collection of mixed media brushes for details or touch-ups to sharpen areas of your illustrations. Sketchy with Tilt is basically a pencil. Pressure sensitive, plus you can also tilt your pencil for shading larger areas. The watercolour detail brushes are alternatives to using inks or pencils for your lines. Because they have similar properties to the paint brushes, they play nicely and allow you to add controlled detail to sharpen up your watercolour. The inker brushes do what they say in the tin. They're great for sharp, realistic ink line work. The variable inker is extremely responsive and has a nice flow to it. The mono inker has consistent line weight, and the breaky inker starts to look like it's running out of ink with light pressure, which is nice for loose, sketchy ink styles. The brush pens are hybrid brushes. They're not like traditional ink or watercolour brushes, but have a painterly feel to them for something a little different. The two hair accent brushes are an extension of these. They can be useful when used subtly over hair or anything with a flow to it. The blockers are for creating nearly opaque shapes, which can be useful for creating areas you can use alpha lock or clipping masks of paint inside of, or to create interesting frames around your artwork, or more aggressive colour fills. Make sure to check out our tips video for a few suggestions on how to use these. The wash brushes are all pretty self-explanatory. These are perfect for creating interesting backgrounds in a traditional sense, but we also use these to overpaint on top of our paint shapes to add a subtle, or not so subtle, additional layer of texture and colour shift. Stamps are fun. They are made from scans of authentic traditional watercolours, and a huge thank to Inky Paper House, who gave us access to a load of our daubs, and check out our amazing art on Instagram. Just pick a stamp, tap it onto the page. You can resize or reposition it using the arrow transform tool, and check out some of our stamp tips in the tips video. Erasers are often undervalued, but they can be a lifesaver, not to mention a creative tool in their own right. We have a few different flavours of eraser to choose from, ranging from soft to hard edges, as well as more creative brushy ones. Again, the sprays are all pretty obvious. They usually work best adding some finishing touches on top of your illustrations and work great in either a subtle or more aggressive way. Lastly, the effects brushes are a mixed bag of brushes that you'll want to use every now and again. The colour shift brushes change the colour based on your pressure. The drops and salt brushes look great when painted in white on top of an existing painting to give it some texture and interest. The two water brushes are lovely for adding only wet edges to your chosen colour. These can be nice to overpaint on larger areas of colour to make them more interesting. And finally, the cloud brushes can be used to make little clouds or for adding more interesting parts of your painting. Make sure to check out the other videos in the playlist for some more detailed tips and tricks.